Liana didn't cry when the man she'd loved for 12 years slid divorce papers across a glass table. She didn't scream, didn't beg. She just stared at one number written in bold. $50,000. 12 years. $50,000. He'd calculated her worth down to the dollar. And he was smiling. Before we jump into this story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and drop a like. Comment below where you're watching from. I want to see all of you joining Liana's journey. Adrian Cole sat across from her in a suit so expensive it whispered power with every movement. He tapped his pen against the folder. Confident, controlled, already convinced he'd won. "This settlement is more than fair," he said. "Most women would be grateful." She lifted her eyes slowly. Her voice came out steady, almost curious. $50,000. After 12 years of being together. That's generous? You lived very comfortably by my side. He leaned back like a CEO dismissing an underperforming employee. Everything you had because of me. Consider this your clean exit. He spoke like she was an inventory being cleared from a warehouse. Liana sat perfectly still, letting something crystallize inside her. Not the divorce, but the realization that this man had stopped seeing her as a person years ago. Maybe he never did. "You keep saying exit," she murmured. "Like you're offering freedom. All you're offering is insult." Adrian's jaw tightened. "The decision is made, Liana. I've moved on." The words landed like stones. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. "How long?" He hesitated for exactly 1 second. 18 months. 18 months. The late-night meetings, the sudden distance, the phone always face down, the rushed showers. It all made sense now. "While we were still acting like a married couple publicly," she said. "I didn't want to complicate things until the time was right." He said it casually, like infidelity was just strategic planning. She stood slowly, pushing her chair back. He mistook it for resignation. "I'm glad you're being mature about this." She paused at the door, looking back just once. "I'm not being mature, I'm being quiet. The two aren't the same." Then she walked out. Not defeated, but transforming. The lobby felt colder. Marble floors gleamed under harsh lights. Tomorrow, everyone would look at her differently. Whispers, pity, gossip. She stepped outside. The wind hit her face like a slap. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "He told me it's over between you two. I'm sorry you had to find out this way." The nausea was instant. She didn't need to ask who it was. Clara Reynolds. Her friend, her replacement, Adrian's new prize. Liana didn't respond. "Sorry" was a meaningless word from someone who knowingly destroyed a marriage. She powered off the phone and exhaled into the cold night air. Everything was gone, but in the silence rising beneath her ribs, something else formed. Not panic, not grief. Clarity. This wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning of hers. Liana didn't go home. Home felt like a cage with expensive furniture. Instead, she walked until her legs ached, passing cafes, street vendors, glowing billboards advertising the empire she'd helped Adrian build. His name was everywhere. Cole Towers, Cole Holdings, Cole Residences. She had been the invisible architect behind the brand, hosting charity galas, smoothing his rough edges, managing his public image. She was never just a wife. She was infrastructure. And now he wanted to wipe her name off the blueprint. When her phone finally died, she ducked into a late-night diner. The waitress brought coffee without asking. Liana wrapped her hands around the cup just to feel something warm. She whispered to herself, so quietly she barely heard it. What now? The question echoed in her chest. She had some money saved. Enough for a few months, maybe. But her resume was blank. Adrian always said work was unnecessary. She had no house, no career, no identity outside of being Mrs. Cole. There was no storm of tears, just a hollow, crushing acceptance. She finished her coffee, paid, and walked back into the night. 2 days later, she returned to the penthouse to pack her essentials. The doorman looked at her like she was someone else now. A guest, not a resident. The elevator ride felt like ascending into a past life. When the doors opened, she froze. Clara was there. Barely dressed, hair wrapped in a towel, walking out of the master bedroom like she owned it. Adrian stood behind her, adjusting his shirt, not guilty, not ashamed, just inconvenienced. "You should have called," he said. Liana stared at him. "It's still legally my home." Clara crossed her arms, smug. "Not for long." Liana walked past her without a word, heading to the closet. She could feel Clara's eyes on her back, sharp, victorious. "You know," Clara called out, "you shouldn't hate me. Adrian and I just connect." You two stopped matching. Liana pulled her suitcase from the top shelf, voice calm. "I don't hate thieves. They just steal because they don't know how to build." Clara's smile twitched. Adrian stepped closer. "Take what you need and go. Let's end this with dignity." She zipped the suitcase shut. "My dignity was intact until you tried to price it at $50,000. She brushed past them, suitcase rolling behind her. Just before stepping into the elevator, she turned. "I hope she's everything you wanted. Because I won't be waiting when she becomes everything you regret." The doors closed quietly behind her. Liana moved into a tiny studio apartment. Creaky floorboards, mismatched furniture, a mattress on the floor. But it was hers. She found work waiting tables at an upscale wine bar downtown. Humbling, exhausting, honest work. In her third week, she noticed a man sitting alone at the corner table, reviewing complex financial documents. Late 30s, sharp suit, quiet intensity. There was something different about him. He didn't demand attention, he commanded it naturally. She didn't know it yet, but he was the founder of Hale Global Ventures, a multi-billion-dollar private equity firm. The same Marcus Hale that Adrian had been desperately trying to meet for over 2 years. He became a regular, always requesting her section. One evening, he was reviewing a document with visible frustration. As she refilled his wine, she noticed the spreadsheet. "Supply chain analysis?" she asked quietly. He looked up, surprised. "You recognize it?" "I used to organize my husband's logistics reports. That bottleneck in your third-quarter projections?" She hesitated. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have looked." "No, please." He turned the laptop toward her. "What do you see?" She leaned in, studying it for 30 seconds. "Your vendor consolidation model is calculating regional distribution costs separately, but you're missing the cross-border tariff multipliers. If you integrate them, you'll see the actual bottleneck isn't logistics, it's customs processing delays in Zone 4. Marcus stared at her. "I've had 3 analysts working on this for 2 months. She smiled awkwardly. "I used to handle my husband's international events. You learn to track things across borders." He pulled out a business card. "Come to my office tomorrow, 10 a.m. The next morning, Liana stood outside. Hale Global Ventures. A glass tower that made Adrian's office look modest. Marcus met her personally. "I had my team verify your observation last night. You were right. You just saved us $40 million in projected losses." She blinked. What?" "We've been trying to acquire a manufacturing consortium in Eastern Europe. Your insight revealed why the deal wasn't profitable. We restructured overnight." He paused. "I need someone who can see what others miss. Are you looking for work?" "I'm waiting tables, sir." "Not anymore." He slid a folder across his desk. "Operations consultant, 6-month trial. Salary, $180,000 with performance bonuses. Liana's hands shook as she opened the folder. Why me? Because in 30 seconds, you saw what 3 people with MBAs missed in 2 months. That's not luck. That's instinct. He looked at her directly. And because I recognize someone who's been underestimated their entire life. She took the job. Over the next 6 months, Liana transformed. In the first month, she identified inefficiencies in 3 major portfolio companies, saving Hale Global $120 million. In the second month, Marcus promoted her to senior strategic advisor. Her name started appearing in business journals. In the third month, she led a successful acquisition negotiation in Singapore. Industry insiders started calling her the ghost analyst, someone who could see problems before they became crises. In the fourth month, Forbes profiled her in Heo, an article titled, "The Consultant Who Sees What Everyone Else Misses." In the fifth month, she was invited to speak at a global business summit. In the sixth month, Marcus made her Vice President of Strategic Operations. Her salary hit 7 figures, but something else grew too. Late nights reviewing portfolios with Marcus turned into dinners discussing life. Business respect evolved into genuine friendship. Friendship deepened into something neither of them rushed. Marcus never pushed, never assumed, never treated her like a project or a prize. One evening, working late in his office, he looked up from his laptop. "You know your ex-husband Adrian has been trying to get a meeting with me for 2 years?" She paused. "I didn't know." "He wants Hale Global to invest in his new development. Keep sending proposals through intermediaries." Marcus smiled slightly. "I've ignored every single one." "Why?" "Because men who undervalue the people closest to them undervalue everything eventually." He met her eyes. "And because the woman he dismissed as worthless became the most valuable person in my company." That night, something shifted between them. Not rushed, not desperate, just real. While Liana rose, Adrian's empire began to fracture. Clara wasn't Liana. She didn't manage his schedule. She complained it was boring. She didn't smooth over investor relations. She posted Instagram stories during board meetings. She didn't handle crisis management. She created them by shopping during a PR scandal. Adrian's assistant quit. His CFO resigned. His investors started pulling out. And Clara, she was already bored. "You work too much," she'd whine. "We never have fun anymore." But worse, she was expensive. Designer shopping sprees, luxury vacations, influencer friends who treated his home like a content studio. Within 6 months, she'd blown through $800,000. Adrian started seeing the truth. Clara loved the lifestyle, not the man. She loved being Adrian Cole's girlfriend on social media, not the actual work of being a partner. One night he found her in his study taking selfies with his Forbes magazine feature. "Clara, I need to work." "You're always working. I'm going out with friends." "Again?" "That's the 4th time this week." She grabbed her purse, irritated. "Maybe if you were more fun, I'd stay home." The door slammed. Adrian sat alone in his office, surrounded by declining profit reports and unanswered emails. For the first time, he wondered what he'd actually traded away. 6 months after starting at Hale Global, Liana attended the Metropolitan Business Summit Gala, one of the most prestigious events of the year. But this time, she wasn't a +1. She was the keynote speaker. She wore a midnight blue gown, elegant and understated. Her confidence radiated from within, earned, not borrowed. Marcus stood beside her as her date, his hand resting gently at the small of her back. The ballroom buzzed with CEOs, investors, and industry titans. And then she saw him. Adrian. He looked different, tired. The sharp edges dulled. His suit was expensive, but something about him seemed diminished. Clara clung to his arm, scrolling through her phone. barely engaged with the event. Adrian's eyes locked on Liana across the room. She looked radiant, powerful, untouchable. His breath caught. "Is that Liana?" His associate whispered. "That's Marcus Hale with her," another voice murmured. "The Marcus Hale? I heard she's his VP of operations now." Adrian felt the floor shift beneath him. Marcus Hale, the man he'd been desperately trying to meet, the man whose investment could save his crumbling empire, and he was with Liana. His Liana. Adrian couldn't help himself. He left Clara at the bar section and approached. "Liana." She turned, her expression calm, unreadable. "Adrian." He forced a smile. "You look incredible. I didn't know you'd be here." "I'm speaking tonight." His smile faltered. "Speaking?" "Keynote address. Strategic vision in modern business architecture." She said it matter-of-factly, without pride or arrogance. He glanced at Marcus, recognition and panic flooding his face. You're with Marcus Hale." Before she could respond, Marcus stepped closer, his presence quietly dominant. "Adrian Cole," Marcus said coolly. "I've received your investment proposals, all 12 of them." Adrian's face flushed. "Mr. Hale, I'd love to discuss." "I don't invest in poorly managed ventures." Marcus's tone was polite, but final. Then, in front of Adrian and the watching crowd, Marcus turned to Liana, cupped her face gently, and kissed her. Not aggressively, not possessively, but undeniably, unmistakably, claiming her as his. The whispers erupted around them. Adrian stood frozen, his face draining of color. When Marcus pulled back, he smiled at Liana. "Go show them what you're made of." The MC's voice echoed across the ballroom. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our keynote speaker, Vice President of Strategic Operations at Hale Global Ventures, Liana Moretti." The room erupted in applause. Liana squeezed Marcus's hand once, then walked toward the stage. Adrian watched, paralyzed as the woman he'd priced at $50,000 took the stage in front of 800 of the world's most powerful business leaders. Liana stood at the podium, spotlights illuminating her face. She took a breath. "Good evening, my name is Liana Moretti." Her voice was steady, strong. "A year ago, I had no job, no resume, no professional identity. I was told I had no value beyond being someone's accessory." The room went silent. "I was offered $50,000 to disappear quietly from a 12-year marriage. Some of you might think that sounds generous." A few uncomfortable laughs. "I thought it was an insult." She paused. "But here's what I learned. Your value isn't determined by the people who can't see it. It's determined by the people who can." She looked directly at Adrian in the audience. "I spent 12 years making someone else's empire run smoothly, organizing, strategizing, problem-solving. I was told that work didn't matter, that I didn't matter." Her voice grew stronger. "And then I met someone who asked a simple question. What do you see?" She gestured toward Marcus. "Marcus Hale didn't offer me charity. He offered me a chance, and when I proved my value, he didn't take credit. He amplified it." The room was silent, captivated. "Today, I've helped restructure $2.3 billion in acquisitions. I've saved companies from collapse. I've built strategies that created 4,000 jobs across 3 continents." She let that sink in. "So here's my message. To everyone who's been underestimated, dismissed, or undervalued, your worth isn't a number someone else assigns. It's a truth you prove." The applause started slowly, then erupted into a standing ovation. Liana stepped off the stage, composed, powerful. She walked directly past Adrian without a glance. As Liana left the stage, Clara scrolled through her phone at the bar, oblivious. Then she noticed people staring. Someone whispered, "Isn't that Adrian Cole's girlfriend?" Yeah, the one he left his wife for. That was his wife on stage? That's the woman he divorced? Clara's stomach dropped. She looked up at the screen displaying Liana's speech highlights. Photos of Liana and Marcus. Headlines. The unexpected rise of Liana Moretti, from divorce to industry leader. Her phone buzzed. Comments flooded her Instagram, not from fans, but from Adrian's business associates, mutual friends, people who knew the truth. You destroyed a marriage for this? Adrian left her for you? Embarrassing. She's a VP at Hale Global and you're… what, exactly? Clara's carefully curated influencer image, built on being Adrian Cole's glamorous girlfriend, began to crumble. Brands started dropping sponsorships. Her follower count plummeted. Comments turned vicious. Homewrecker. Gold digger. Downgrade. But the worst part? Adrian barely noticed. He was too consumed with the realization of what he'd lost and the fact that Liana, the woman he'd dismissed, was now the gatekeeper to the one man who could save his failing empire. One evening, Clara confronted him. You still love her, don't you? Adrian didn't answer. I gave up everything for you, Clara screamed, and you're obsessed with your ex-wife. You didn't give up anything, Adrian said coldly. You saw an opportunity and took it, just like you'll take the next one when this stops being fun. Clara's face twisted. I hate you. The feeling, Adrian said quietly, is mutual. She grabbed her things and left that night. Adrian didn't stop her. He sat alone in the penthouse, surrounded by everything he'd built, and realized none of it mattered. Because the one person who made it all, work, was gone, and she wasn't coming back. Weeks later, Liana and Marcus walked along the waterfront at sunset, the city skyline glowing behind them. Adrian sent another proposal, Marcus said casually. And? Rejected. Again? He smiled. He's requested a personal meeting with you. Liana stopped walking. With me. He thinks you'll convince me to invest. Marcus looked at her. Will you meet him? She thought for a moment. No. No? He doesn't want to apologize. He wants to use me. Again. She turned to Marcus. And I'm done being used. Marcus pulled her close. For what it's worth, you're the best decision I ever made, professionally and personally. She smiled. You gave me a chance when no one else would. No, he said gently. You gave yourself a chance. I just watched you take it. 1 year later. Forbes magazine cover. The 40 Under 40, Innovators Reshaping Global Business. Liana Moretti's face smiled from the cover. Inside the article. From being underestimated in a marriage to becoming one of the most sought-after strategic consultants in the world, Liana Moretti's rise is nothing short of extraordinary. Her work at Hale Global has reshaped acquisition strategies across industries, and her recent engagement to Marcus Hale has captivated the business world, not as a fairy tale, but as a partnership of equals. Liana read the article in Marcus's office sitting across from him as they reviewed quarterly reports. He looked up. Thoughts? They spelled my name right. That's progress. He laughed. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Congratulations on everything. I'm sorry. Adrian. She stared at it for a moment, then deleted it. Everything okay? Marcus asked. Perfect, she said, closing her phone. Because it was. She wasn't the woman who was priced at $50,000 anymore. She was the woman who proved she was kind of priceless. And she built that life herself. One decision, one opportunity, one triumph at a time. Some stories don't end with revenge. They end with growth so undeniable it becomes the revenge. Liana didn't destroy Adrian. She simply outgrew him. And that was the most powerful ending of all. Clara learned the hard way. Stolen love built on betrayal eventually crumbles. Adrian learned too late. The foundation you dismiss is the one you needed most. And Liana? She learned the most important lesson. Your value isn't determined by who couldn't see it. It's determined by who you become when you finally see it yourself. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe. Because there are so many more stories of people who rebuilt themselves from nothing. Comment below. Have you ever been underestimated? How did you prove them wrong? See you in the next story.